literally just called us a severe thunderstorm warning. There's no tornado warning. Whoa, that pushed me in.
It was beautiful. It was 70 degrees, sun shining.
Really started off as any other day.
It was an exciting day for me because it was the start of our annual boat training.
That morning, it was a beautiful morning. We were out on the river.
Summertime is always boat season on the Cedar River, and we train our personnel annually. The flood of 08, 1993, the early 2000s, there were significant boating events that the fire department undertook. Almost killed a handful of firefighters. We learned that we needed larger boats, more boats, better equipment. We've done a really good job of providing the right training and the right knowledge to our personnel.
As I arrived at the boat ramp and the first session was just ending, we were kind of getting close to noon.
Battalion Chief Halloran came down to the boat ramp and he said, "Hey, I just got off the phone with my brother."
My brother was doing extrication training in Des Moines. He says, "Well, there's a storm coming your way."
Des Moines just sustained a really bad storm and it's coming this way.
And I said, "Hey, what's your plan with the boats?" Over lunchtime. I just had a gut feeling to not keep the boats there.
And we looked at each other and went, all right, we better load the boats up and take them back to Central.
Let's get them under cover.
Just in case the rain comes and maybe we will have to scratch the afternoon session. We no more got back to Central than the skies got dark. Myself and the other folks that were doing training that day went, thank goodness that we got those boats away, because we wouldn't have had a boat fleet after that. They would have been gone, you know, torn up, thrown down the river, thrown into somebody's house, who knows. Within 10 minutes, Derecho was on top of us and the first alarm started rolling out.
About 12:30, an officer from Engine 8 radioed that the storm had arrived.
So we were kind of looking around the station back towards the west, and we could see it building and getting closer.
We were looking to the west, and Alexandra Apartments are directly west of Station 8. And I think it was Brandon Greider said, look at the ridge of the roof of Alexandra Apartments. Use that as like your reference point. And the incredible speed which the clouds were moving was just, it was mesmerizing. Just, you looked at that fixed point, the ridge of the roof, and how fast the clouds were moving. It was absolutely incredible.
It was very ominous looking, and it started blowing and raining fairly hard, and I got on the radio and let dispatch know that it was here.
When the wind started hitting, we could literally see the windows in the station shaking, like kind of the pressure pushing on the windows. And first of all, we were scared the windows were going to break in because there was stuff hitting them. First call was a building that had collapsed on the southwest side, so we had quite the drive. So we opened up the garage and we knew this was like nothing we had ever seen. The second we pulled out onto C Ave, the power lines started literally falling right behind us as we were driving. You know, something like you see in a movie. So we're lucky even to make it out of the station.
The tones went off, and we were sent on a first alarm structure fire over in District 3 off of between E and F Avenue, and I started to pull the engine out to go north on Wiley. And as soon as I cleared the station to go north, the full power of that wind hit the engine. You could feel it being pushed as I was driving, that I had to steer against it.
And then all of a sudden it was just all there.
Things are blowing by us.
Before you know it, the call comes in, building collapse over in the west side of town. By the time we crossed 6th Street and topped the first little hill by 9th Street, we could already see chunks of trees flying towards us, flying around us, raining so hard you could barely see.
A bunch of us that were on days went to the balcony of the museum, so we're on the 2nd floor, and saw a dumpster go floating down First Avenue. So we went down on the apparatus floor, and already by then crews had gone out on some building collapses. Doors, I think, were already broken. We had 2 doors that were open and could not shut, so it was very noisy down there. Rain was coming in. You're just seeing debris flying all over the place.
Wilson Avenue was blocked behind us by trees. So we go into the Evergreen parking lot, came around the corner of Evergreen Packaging to another tree down across the driveway, and the roof off of Evergreen was already in their driveway beyond that. There was no way we were going to make that work.
Once we made it down to the interstate, we got on to head south. All the traffic came to a stop. We ended up pulling up behind a semi that was on its side and blown over. Then we were able to get out and used an axe to take the windshield out of that semi and get that truck driver out. You could see about another quarter mile ahead of us there was a second semi also on its side, and he was in the same position. He was okay, but trapped in his truck. By this time, of course, the whole city was busy running calls, and I knew that there was no way we were going to get an ambulance, which would be normal protocol. So given the situation and the number of calls that we were already behind, we went ahead and dropped those 2 drivers off at St. Luke's.
Going for a structure fire caused by down power lines over on the northwest side. I don't remember the exact street name, but I know that engine 3 was first due. And I was following behind the engine, the truck, and the rescue.
Yeah, you have to imagine when the first alarm assignment goes out, engine 1 leads the way, the truck behind them, the rescue behind them, and battalion chief behind them. And we were on the parade going up E Avenue, and we got boxed in by trees coming down on either side of us, power lines coming down, trees in the road. We couldn't advance further anymore.
We can't go this way, we can't go that way.
We got trapped by trees. The truck is just shaking.
We were in the line of apparatus, and my eyes must have been pretty wide just because of the wind and some of the destruction we were seeing.
And I see the big tree, oak tree, out my window on the officer's side. I said, hey, this tree over here doesn't look that great. Just about when I got that out of my mouth, the tree fell. Just came down, kind of swiped the side of the truck.
The tree actually came down between truck 1 and ourselves, and we couldn't go any further. And actually, just getting to that point, something had hit the windshield so hard that I remember I closed my eyes real tight and I kind of turned, because I expected, with how hard it hit the windshield, that it was going to be in the cab with us.
I talked to Marcus Moore and I said, hey, you're not going to like it, but we got to get out. We got to cut our way out of this situation. So we both got out, grabbed the chainsaws. We had our helmets, our turnouts on. Grabbed the chainsaws out of the compartment and fired them up, and then kind of cut our way free of the tree that had already fallen on us.
At one point, both Moen and Marcus were down on one knee, planted on the ground. They couldn't walk, they couldn't make it any further. The wind was so strong, they just got down on a knee and just kind of hunkered down there. Cut some more, we drug some more tree branches.
As we were cutting our way out, there was a number of structural collapse calls, people trapped calls. We were just stuck between F and First Avenue.
At that point, it was, we know we're not making it to this first alarm, and it ended up being nothing, thank goodness. It was, at that point, it was take whatever call you can, because dispatch was completely inundated.
we were heading west to head to the southwest side, and we had to stop before heading over 380. All of us basically, we got our helmets on and we ducked down by the pedals because we had sheet metal hitting the front of the engine, different trees hitting the front of the engine. As we were parked right before heading over the bridge, we could feel the engine start shaking. We almost felt like we were potentially going to tip over.
I wasn't sure there wasn't a tornado right in front of the truck.
Just like everybody else, we had to drive over stuff. We actually ended up getting a flat tire.
We couldn't respond due to the flat tire.
We could see fires burning in different neighborhoods around us.
We were probably about a mile from it, and we could see the smoke, and I actually called it into dispatch, and we were trying to determine exactly where it was, but we were stuck due to the flat tire.
So the first call we were dispatched for was an electrical hazard, probably power lines down. There's a call that came out in Engine 8's district for a building collapse with people trapped. So Captain Cheney radioed to CCOM and made the decision that we were going to divert from our original call and go help with that because of the severity of it and the time critical.
Shooting from the hip pretty quickly on that, just trying to make as good of decisions as we possibly could at that point in time. It still was in our minds, we've got a structure collapse with people known inside, so we're doing whatever we can to get there. Got to the scene. We actually, I believe, pulled in just ahead of engine 2.
A single-story commercial structure that at least one whole wall, I think it was the south wall, had blown out and collapsed. So you were able to see into all the offices and into the building.
The front face of the building was completely gone. You could see the desks sitting in the offices.
I believe there were 7 people that ended up being trapped in that building that we had to help escort out. So
there were 3 people hunkered underneath the one desk. We did search, I think, 2 more offices, found a couple more people. So we knew we couldn't spend a lot of time here. There's so many more calls coming down.
And then it was just call after call after call. One of the assistant chiefs went to dispatch. He went up to dispatch to really prioritize the calls that were coming in. From his time on being on USAR is when he said we need a USAR activation.
So USAR is we're the Iowa Task Force 1. USAR stands for Urban Search and Rescue. We primarily are a structural collapse team that would go in and shore up parts of the building to extricate victims. There's also a whole host of other things that we do: wide area search, helo rescue, technical search. So a lot of different things that we do, but our primary mission would be structural collapse. What we did a lot of was just the wide area search, going all around town and trying to find out if there was anybody still stuck in buildings.
We quickly realized that a lot of trees had already come down on this side of town and pretty much had blocked us into a, let's call it maybe a 12 by 12 block radius around our fire station.
All of a sudden we could see this black plume of smoke.
As calls were continually coming in one by one, CCOM then tried to dispatch units for structure fire not far from Station 7. And we were unable to get there, and we spent probably the next 40 minutes trying to find our way through the streets of District 7 to get there.
Engine 7 was stuck, couldn't make it to the call.
Truck had just gotten on scene and confirmed that there was a structure fire. At that point, everybody was tied up, so we only had 2 units at that fire when we typically have 3 engines, truck, rescue, and a battalion.
House is completely engulfed in flames.
We were fighting fires and standing in the tree branches because the big tree had fallen, so we'd sit up on the tree branch and spray water on this thing, stood up on top of the car to get water where it needed to be.
I remember at one point standing on top, they had a Dodge Nitro backed into their driveway, And standing on top of that with a 2.5 inch trying to douse water onto this is absolutely getting my butt kicked.
Brenneman come running up, I'm 6 blocks away, out of breath, I'm ready, I'm here, let's go. We made him the pump operator since he didn't really have any of his stuff with him.
Greg Brenneman was off duty, and he came running from pretty close to the mall to come to this fire, and he was just soaking wet. He didn't have any of his gear, so that freed me up from the pump panel to be able to go and help with the fire.
Parked my vehicle over on 32nd because I wasn't able to make it to the firehouse actually with the traffic on First Ave and the trees down. And I turned around and I had seen a column of black smoke. And I made the decision to head towards the black smoke. I still didn't have my gear at this time. So I just started running. The smoke didn't look far, but as I began running, I realized how far away it was. They told the driver to go do whatever since she actually had gear, and I would pump the fire since I was in street clothes.
Somewhere in avoiding debris and debris hitting us along the way, we had a damaged coolant line.
We blew a coolant line on the engine, couldn't use the engine to pump. Our engine was dead in the water, so we ended up just using a hydrant and just flowing hydrant water.
After our structure fire on the northeast side in Station 7's district, we got it towed to the shop. 2 mechanics came in and helped us out. They were able to band-aid it back together with some hoses they had around the shop. They put it back together, got it filled back up on coolant, and then we're back up and running on engine 1.
We initially went to a down wire, just a basic electrical hazard. Saw that it wasn't sparking or arcing, cleared that right away because dispatch came over the radio saying there was a building collapse with possible occupants inside. It felt like it took forever to get there just because we had to keep finding different ways to get there with trees falling at us and power lines falling down. The storm was still heading full force right at us. I mean, it was happening. And we got out and rain is flying sideways at our faces. We're holding our helmets on straight so that they're not trying to fly off of our head. And Captain and I found a way into the building. I crawled in to find the victims. There was a family of 7 just packed inside of this little car inside of the building, and they were unharmed, they were fine, and we had to try to figure out, do we want to take them out into this storm? Because it probably would have been more dangerous to take them out into this raging storm than it would have been just to stay in this shelter. We ended up telling them to shelter in place.
We had a rookie academy going on that was nearing the end of their completion. I think they had a week and a half left. If need to be, we're going to cancel training and we're going to put them on vehicles.
Some of the rookies were still on days, they came out and ran with us.
The original house was already burnt to the ground. The only thing left was the foundation of it. Our primary goal when we got there was to go into the adjacent house and to start pulling ceiling in there because they were starting to get extension into that house. There was trees everywhere. There was hose lines that were woven in between all these branches that they were trying to get to. There were firefighters on top of vehicles trying to put this said house fire out because they couldn't physically get to the house. So it was just really something that I wasn't prepared for. I'm like, how do we, navigate this? This is everywhere. Not formally be introduced to everybody, but also be introduced to everybody at the same time was something that I'll definitely take with me.
I jumped on one of the reserves with a couple of the rookies. Got dispatched to person down in their front yard. So we're trying to head down Mount Vernon Road, and we get about to 19th Street, I believe, and all of a sudden a pickup was heading towards us, waving their arms frantically. They'd found their neighbor collapsed in her yard. She was unconscious. They put her in the back of their pickup truck, and they were trying to get to Mercy Hospital. Myself and another rookie jumped in the back of the pickup to kind of go along with them. These neighbors actually didn't even know her. They actually just saw a person down in their yard, and they went and threw her in their pickup and started heading to the hospital. I think the Cedar Rapidians did an amazing job of getting out and helping their neighbors.
Citizens of Cedar Rapids were out in full force trying to clear roadways, and that was one of the most admirable things I saw that day.
People who really had significant impact in their lives. Like, there was people in District 8 that went 2 weeks without power, or had a tree through their house, or had a tree through their house and no power. But how resilient the people of Cedar Rapids are. I
think it was really neat watching neighbors come together and helping each other out.
I'd say I'm proud to be from Cedar Rapids. The perseverance of the folks from the neighborhoods, the continual outpouring of support, the amount of assistance I got at my house from people as far away as Davenport and Waterloo was incredible. You know, there were people working behind the scenes that I didn't even know were doing the things they were doing, and I know that was across the board for everybody.
Public Works were out in major fashions with big end loaders and grappling buckets. They asked me, hey, you need to get somewhere, and I said, yeah, I need to go here now. And they said, not a problem. They stopped what they were doing, and they pushed massive trees out of the way just so I could get down the road. What I saw were the Midwest work ethics of people putting on the gloves, pulling up the bootstraps, and getting after things right away.
You know, it seemed like everyone was coming together and everyone was checking on each other. I know, you know, a lot of places where we'd get a call of a gas odor or something like that. It was, you know, the neighbor had called because the house 2 doors down from him smelled like gas, and just a lot of back and forth between neighbors and everybody looking out for each other.
You know, I think it was, you know, it's hard to say it was positive, right? Because so many people were impacted and they lost so much. But our city, not only fire, but I mean, it was a whole city. It was fire, police, EMS, dispatchers. You got the forestry. You got streets. It wasn't just the emergency services side of it. So I think everybody, you know, banded together and did the best they could. It's not something that just fire did or just PD did. It was a whole effort of the whole city.
No matter who you were, people stepped up to help each other.
People of Cedar Rapids keep helping each other out. This isn't a deal that can just be over just like that. Everyone's done a great job helping everybody out where they can, and just keep doing that. We love to see it.
So it's just one of those days and events that you'll never forget in a 30-year career.
It was hard to describe. I mean, it's just something that you had to see it. I mean, it was so widespread and just blanketed the whole city. Just, it's indescribable.
Couldn't even see right in front of you.
Yeah, my words don't do it justice. It was something else.